The bridge of the Eternal Hope was quiet except for the steady beeping of the damaged systems. Hyunwoo stood near the main window, staring at the endless darkness of space. Behind him, the control panels flickered with weak lights. Some were broken. Some barely worked. The ship was dying just like his people. He was tired. Not just from lack of sleep, but from the weight of 10,000 lives depending on his decisions. Hyunwoo had been a commander once, back when his world still existed. Back when the Valtorians had cities that touched the clouds and technology that seemed like magic. Now he was just a man trying to keep his people alive one more day. Jiwoo walked up beside him carrying a datapad. She looked exhausted too. Her uniform was stained with engine oil, and her hair was pulled back in a messy knot. As the chief engineer, she spent most of her time in the lower decks, trying to fix things that couldn't really be fixed anymore. "The fuel reserves are at 8%, she said quietly. "Maybe enough for 2 more jumps through space. 3 if we're lucky." Hyunwoo nodded but said nothing. What could he say? They both knew what that meant. 2 jumps might take them to 2 more star systems. 2 more chances to find a home. 2 more chances to be rejected. "How are the people?" he asked instead. Jiwoo sighed. "Scared, hungry, some are getting sick. Mirai is doing her best, but we're running low on medical supplies too." As if summoned by her name, Mirai entered the bridge. She was younger than both of them, but the last few months had aged her. She carried herself with a quiet strength that Hyunwoo admired. While he led the ship and Jiwoo kept it running, Mirai kept hope alive in the hearts of their people. 3 more died today, Mirai reported softly. 2 from illness, 1 from despair. He just gave up. The words hung in the air like a heavy fog. Giving up was becoming common. When you had nowhere to go and no one wanted you, what was the point of continuing? "We'll find somewhere," Hyunwoo said, though he wasn't sure he believed it anymore. They had tried. God, how they had tried. After escaping their dying world, they had traveled to the Krell system. The Krell were known for their generosity, but when the Eternal Hope arrived, the Krell simply said no. They couldn't risk angering the Skrell Empire by harboring refugees. The Skrell had destroyed the Valtorian homeworld and they had long memories. Next, they tried the Vorian colonies. The Vorians were traders, practical people who valued profit. Hyunwoo had offered technology, knowledge, anything they had. The Vorians had considered it, then refused. Too risky, they said. The Skrell might follow the refugees. Then came the Galactic Council Station. Surely, Hyunwoo had thought, the great alliance of civilizations would help. They were wrong. The Council listened to their plea, then officially declared the Valtorians as displaced persons without territorial rights. In simple terms, it meant they were nobody. They had no home, no planet, no voice. The Council wouldn't help them, and worse, they told other worlds not to help either. "Commander," a young voice called out. Taeyang, the ship's astronomer, rushed onto the bridge. His eyes were bright with something Hyunwoo hadn't seen in weeks. Excitement. "I found something," Taeyang said, bringing up a star map on the main screen. "A system. Uncharted. It's way out here on the edge of everything." "Uncharted means uninhabited," Jiwoo said carefully. "That could be good. Or it could be empty rocks," Hyunwoo added, but he stepped closer to look. Taeyang's fingers danced across the controls and the image zoomed in. "Look at the 3rd planet from the star. I've been studying it for hours. It has water, lots of it. The atmosphere shows oxygen and nitrogen, and there are electromagnetic signals coming from the surface." "Electromagnetic signals." Mirai leaned in. "That means technology. That means people. Primitive people," Taeyang said. "The signals are basic. Radio waves, early wireless communication. They're probably just discovering space travel." Hyunwoo felt his heart beat faster. A primitive world meant it wouldn't be part of the Galactic Council. It meant they might not know about the Skrell. It meant there was a chance, however small, that they might help. Or at least not immediately shoot them down. "What do we know about the species?" he asked. Taeyang shook his head. "Nothing. The planet isn't in any database. Like I said, it's uncharted. But the signals suggest they're organized. They have cities, technology, civilization." "Show me how far," Hyunwoo said. The map shifted. The distance was significant, but not impossible. With their remaining fuel, they could make it. It would be their last jump. If this planet rejected them, the Eternal Hope would drift in space until the fuel ran out completely. Then they would all die, slowly, as the life support systems failed one by one. Ji-woo understood this too. She met Hyun-woo's eyes and he saw both fear and hope there. "It's a gamble," she said. "Everything has been a gamble since we left home," Hyun-woo replied. Mirai put her hand on his shoulder. "The people need hope. Even if it's a small chance, it's better than floating here waiting to die." Hyun-woo looked at each of them. Ji-woo, who had kept their ship alive through impossible odds. Mirai, who had kept their spirits alive when bodies failed. Taeyang, who still looked at the stars with wonder instead of fear. They were the best of what the Valtorians had been. If they believed there was hope, maybe there was. "Set course for the planet," Hyun-woo ordered. "Prepare the ship for one final jump." Taeyang grinned and rushed back to his station. Ji-woo squeezed Hyun-woo's arm once, then headed down to the engine room to prepare the systems. Mirai stayed a moment longer. "Do you think they'll help us?" she asked quietly. Hyun-woo looked at the image of the blue and green planet on the screen. It looked beautiful, peaceful, so different from the cold metal of the ship they had lived in for months. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I know we're out of options. This primitive world is our last chance." 3 hours later, the Eternal Hope's engines roared to life one more time. The ship shuddered and groaned as it tore a hole through space itself, jumping across the vast distance in the blink of an eye. When they emerged, the blue planet filled their view. It was the most beautiful thing Hyun-woo had ever seen. "We're here," Taeyang announced, his voice filled with awe. "Now comes the hard part," Ji-woo said, making contact. Hyun-woo took a deep breath. They had traveled so far, been rejected by so many, but this time felt different. This time they weren't asking a great civilization for help. They were asking a young species, one that barely knew the stars existed. Maybe that would make all the difference. "Send a greeting message on all frequencies," Hyun-woo ordered. "Tell them we come in peace. Tell them we need help." As the message was sent into the planet's atmosphere, Hyun-woo whispered a prayer to gods he wasn't sure existed anymore. The fate of 10,000 refugees now rested in the hands of a species they knew nothing about, a species that called their world Earth. The world went crazy when the Eternal Hope appeared in Earth's orbit. Every telescope pointed at the massive ship. Every military radar tracked its position. News channels showed nothing but the alien vessel, its silver surface reflecting sunlight like a second moon. People flooded into the streets, some in fear, some in wonder. Governments held emergency meetings. Religious leaders debated what it meant. Scientists argued about whether to make contact or hide. In a military command center in America, General Martinez stared at the screen showing the alien ship. She had spent 30 years in the military, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. Her hands were steady, but her heart raced. "They're broadcasting something," her communications officer said. "Multiple languages. English, Mandarin, Spanish, Arabic, dozens more." "Play it," Martinez ordered. Static filled the room, then a voice. It was artificial, translated by computer, but the words were clear. "People of Earth, we mean you no harm. We are the Valtorians. Our world was destroyed. We have traveled far, seeking refuge. We are 10,000 souls with nowhere else to go. We ask for your compassion. We ask for a place to rest. We will share our knowledge with you. We will help your world grow. We only ask that you give us a chance to survive." The message repeated in different languages. Martinez listened 3 times before she spoke. "Get me the president. Get me the UN. Get me everyone." Across the world, the message played. In Seoul, young Dae-hyun watched it on his phone while sitting in a cafe. In Mumbai, Priya heard it on the radio while driving home. In São Paulo, Carlos saw it on television with his family. Everywhere, people heard the same plea, the same desperate request for help. Some believed it. Some didn't. On the Eternal Hope, Hyun-woo waited. He had sent the message hours ago. Now they could only wait for a response. Around him, the bridge crew watched the planet below. They could see lights on the night side, cities, millions of people living their lives, unaware that their world was about to change forever. "They're moving military assets," Ji-woo reported, watching the tracking systems. "Aircraft, ships, ground forces. They're preparing for the worst. Can you blame them?" Mirai asked. "We appear out of nowhere, 10,000 aliens in a giant ship. They don't know if we're refugees or invaders." The message was clear, Taeyang said hopefully. "They must understand we need help." Hyun-woo said nothing. He understood fear. He understood that a cornered animal might attack even when offered food. Humanity didn't know them. For all Earth knew, this was a trick. The first move in an invasion. Hours passed. Then a response came. Alien vessel, this is the United Nations speaking on behalf of Earth. Maintain your current orbit. Do not approach the planet. Do not launch any craft. We are discussing your request. Give us time. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. Send confirmation, Hyunwoo ordered. Tell them we'll wait. Tell them we understand. 3 days passed like 3 years. On Earth, nations argued. Some wanted to destroy the ship immediately. Russia and China worried about technology falling into rival hands. Smaller nations feared becoming irrelevant if the great powers controlled alien knowledge. Religious groups debated whether aliens had souls. Conspiracy theorists claimed it was all fake, but something else happened too. People started to sympathize. Videos spread on social media. Animations showing what the Valtorians might look like. Artists drew pictures of alien children, imagining families on that ship. Musicians wrote songs about finding home. A movement grew, especially among the young. They put signs in their windows. Refugees welcome in a dozen languages. On the 4th day, the UN called for a vote. Should they allow the Valtorians to settle on Earth? Hyunwoo listened to the debate through intercepted transmissions. Jiwoo had managed to tap into Earth's communication networks. It wasn't spying exactly. They needed to know if they should prepare to run or to land. They're scared, Jiwoo said, translating the arguments. But some are curious. Some are hopeful. What do they say about us? Mirai asked. Jiwoo paused, reading. Some call you monsters. Some call you angels. Most just call you refugees. People arguing about the same things they argue about with their own refugees. Hyunwoo understood. It was the same across the galaxy. Fear of the unknown. Fear of change. Fear that helping others might hurt yourself. But also compassion. Also curiosity. Also the simple belief that those in need deserved help. Commander, Taeyang interrupted. They're sending another message. It's an invitation. Hyunwoo's breath caught. To land? No, to talk. They want representatives to come down. Face to face, this was the moment. Hyunwoo looked at his crew. They might capture us. This could be a trap. Or it could be our chance, Mirai said. Let me come with you. A medic sends a message of peace. And me, Jiwoo added. I can show them our technology. Prove we can help. I should go too, Taeyang began, but Hyunwoo shook his head. No, you stay here. If something happens to us, you lead. You get our people to safety. Taeyang wanted to argue, but he understood. Someone had to survive to tell their story. The small shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. Hyunwoo piloted it himself, following the coordinates the humans had sent. New York City, the United Nations building, the heart of human cooperation. As they broke through the clouds, Hyunwoo saw the planet properly for the first time. Blue oceans, green forests, brown deserts, white ice at the poles. It looked like home. It looked like every Valtorian dream of what a world should be. They landed on a prepared platform. Armed soldiers surrounded them, weapons ready. Hyunwoo, Jiwoo, and Mirai stepped out slowly, hands visible and empty. The Valtorians looked almost human. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, but their skin had a slight blue tint. Their eyes were larger, adapted to the dimmer sun of their lost world. Their hands had an extra finger. Small differences, but enough to mark them as alien. General Martinez stepped forward. She had been chosen to make first contact. Behind her stood diplomats from every major nation, all watching carefully. I am General Martinez, she said in English. A device translated her words into Valtorian. Welcome to Earth. I am Hyunwoo, he replied. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you for this chance. They were led inside through halls filled with staring humans. Some looked afraid. Some looked amazed. Children pressed against windows to see the aliens walk past. Hyunwoo tried to smile at them to show he meant no harm. In the great assembly hall, leaders from every nation waited. Hyunwoo stood before them and told their story. He told them about the Skrell Empire, a race of parasites that consumed worlds. He told them how his people had fought and lost, how they had fled with only what they could carry, how they had been rejected by the galaxy's great civilizations. We don't want to conquer, Hyunwoo said. We don't want to rule. We just want to live. We want our children to grow up somewhere safe. We want to sleep without fear. Mirai stepped forward. I'm a doctor. Let me help your people. We can cure diseases you struggle with. We can extend life. We can ease suffering. Jiwoo activated a hologram. I'm an engineer. Look at what we can offer. Clean energy, water purification, efficient transportation. We can help Earth grow without destroying it. The assembly hall was silent. Then the arguing began. The Russian ambassador stood. How do we know you're telling the truth? This could be an invasion trick. The Chinese representative agreed. Your technology could be dangerous. Why should we trust you? But others disagreed. The ambassador from Kenya spoke. My nation knows what it means to be refugees. We know what it means to need help. How can we call ourselves human if we turn away those in need? The German ambassador nodded. They are offering partnership, not conquest. They are showing us their weakness, not their strength. That takes courage. The debate lasted hours. Hyunwoo, Jiwoo, and Mirai sat quietly, letting humanity decide their fate. They had said everything they could. Now it was up to these strange, passionate, divided people. Finally, the Secretary General called for a vote. It wasn't unanimous. Many nations voted no. Many abstained. But enough voted yes, just enough. The United Nations has decided, the Secretary General announced, to offer temporary settlement rights to the Valtorian refugees. You may settle in designated areas. You will share your technology gradually. You will respect our sovereignty. And if your enemies come, you will help us defend this world. Hyunwoo felt tears in his eyes. After so long, after so much rejection, finally someone had said, yes, we accept, he said, his voice breaking. Thank you. You've given us more than shelter. You've given us hope. That night, as the shuttle returned to the Eternal Hope, Hyunwoo looked down at the planet below. Lights twinkled in the darkness. Cities full of humans living their lives, now sharing their world with strangers from the stars. They said yes, he told the waiting crew. We have a home. The ship erupted in celebration. People cried. People laughed. People held each other. After months of darkness, there was finally light. Jiwoo stood beside Hyunwoo, watching Earth. Do you think we'll be safe here? Hyunwoo thought about the debate he had witnessed. The fear, the hope, the division, the compassion, I think, he said slowly, that we found something rare in this galaxy. We found people who choose hope over fear. That's worth protecting. The Eternal Hope began its descent. 10,000 refugees headed toward their new home. 2 years had passed since the Valtorians landed on Earth. 2 years of building, learning, and slowly becoming part of this strange new world. The settlement stretched across the wilderness of northern Canada, where forests met frozen plains. The Valtorians had built their homes to blend with nature, smooth white buildings that curved like hills, powered by clean energy that left no smoke or waste. Human visitors often said it looked like something from a dream. Hyunwoo walked through the settlement's main street watching children play. Some were Valtorian, with their blue-tinted skin and large eyes. Some were human, brought by parents who worked at the joint research facilities. They played together, laughing in a mixture of languages, not caring about their differences. This was what peace looked like, Hyunwoo thought. This was what they had been searching for. He headed to the medical center where Mirai worked. The building was always busy, humans and Valtorians together, sharing knowledge that saved lives. Mirai had helped develop treatments for 3 types of cancer. Human doctors had taught the Valtorians about diseases they had never encountered. It was a partnership that benefited everyone. Commander. Mirai greeted him with a tired smile. She wore a white coat now, like the human doctors. You look worried. Is it that obvious? Hyunwoo asked. You always look worried when something bad is about to happen. What is it? Before he could answer, his communicator buzzed. It was Taeyang. The young astronomer's voice was tight with fear. Hyunwoo, you need to come to the observatory now. Hyunwoo ran. Mirai followed. They found Taeyang in the main observatory, surrounded by screens showing space. His hands shook as he pointed at the displays. They found us, Taeyang whispered. The Skrell. They're here, the screens showed ships. Dozens of them. Dark shapes moving through space toward Earth. The Skrell fleet was massive, each vessel larger than the Eternal Hope. They moved like insects, coordinated and relentless. Hyunwoo felt cold. How long until they arrive? 3 days. Maybe 4. Have they contacted us? Yes. Taeyang played the message. The Skrell voice was like grinding metal. Their language was harsh, translated by computer into something humans and Valtorians could understand. Humans of Earth, you harbor criminals. The Valtorians destroyed one of our harvesting operations and fled. We have come to collect them. Surrender the Valtorians to us and we will leave your world untouched. Refuse and we will take what we came for, and we will take your world as compensation for your interference." The message ended. Silence filled the observatory. "They're lying," Mirai said angrily. "We didn't destroy anything. They destroyed our world. They killed billions of us. It doesn't matter what's true," Hyunwoo said quietly. "What matters is what they'll do." He contacted the UN immediately. Within hours, an emergency meeting was called. Hyunwoo found himself once again in the Great Assembly Hall in New York. But this time the mood was different. This time, there was real fear. General Martinez stood at the podium. She looked older than she had 2 years ago. "The Skrell have given us a choice. Surrender the Valtorians or fight." "Then we fight," said Ambassador Okonkwo from Nigeria. "We gave them sanctuary. We can't just hand them over to be slaughtered." "Easy for you to say," snapped the Russian ambassador. "Your country won't be the first target. We have weapons, yes, but against that fleet, we'll lose millions. Maybe billions," the Chinese representative agreed. "We must think of our own people first. 10,000 aliens versus 8 billion humans. The mathematics are simple." "Mathematics?" The German ambassador stood, his face red with anger. "We're talking about people's lives. About keeping our word. About being worthy of calling ourselves civilized." The debate raged. Hyunwoo sat quietly, listening to humanity argue about his people's fate. He understood both sides. Of course they were scared. Of course they wanted to protect their own. He would feel the same. Finally he stood. "May I speak?" The room fell silent. "I understand your fear," Hyunwoo said. "The Skrell are powerful. They've destroyed countless worlds. They're parasites that consume everything they touch." He paused. "I'm prepared to offer myself. Take me. Tell the Skrell you've given them the Valtorian leaders. Maybe that will satisfy them. My people can stay here and you'll be safe." "No." The word came from an unexpected source. General Martinez. She stepped forward, her jaw set. "I've spent 2 years working with your people. My soldiers train alongside your security forces. My engineers learn from yours. I've seen what you are, and I've seen what the Skrell are." She turned to address the assembly. "If we surrender the Valtorians, we prove that Earth can be bullied. We prove that we abandon our friends when things get hard. What happens next time? What happens when the Skrell come back and demand our resources? Our people, do we surrender then too?" "But the cost," someone began. "The cost of fighting might be high," Martinez interrupted. "But the cost of cowardice is higher. If we can't stand up for those we've promised to protect, then what are we?" A young representative from South Korea stood up. His name was Jae-sung, and he looked barely 30 years old. "My grandmother was a refugee during the Korean War. She was driven from her home, hungry and scared. And people helped her. Strangers fed her, sheltered her, risked their own safety for hers." He looked around the room. "She always told me, we survived because people chose kindness over fear. How can I honor her memory if I choose fear now?" One by one, others stood. The Brazilian ambassador, the Canadian, the Indian representative. Not everyone. Not even a majority at first. "But enough. I call for a vote," the Secretary General said. "All in favor of defending Earth and the Valtorian refugees." The vote was closer than Hyunwoo expected. Many nations voted no. Many abstained. But when the counting finished, the answer was clear. Humanity would fight. Hyunwoo felt emotions he couldn't name. Gratitude, guilt, wonder. These humans barely knew his people, and yet they were willing to risk everything. It was insane. It was beautiful. It was something the great civilizations of the galaxy had forgotten how to do. Back at the settlement, Hyunwoo gathered the Valtorians. He told them what was coming. He told them about humanity's decision. "They're going to fight for us," he said, "so we fight for them. Every able-bodied Valtorian joins the defense. We share every weapon, every technology, every secret we have. If Earth falls, we all fall together." Jiwoo stepped forward. She had spent 2 years working with human engineers. "I can upgrade their weapons. Their ships are primitive, but they're fast. We can make them faster, deadlier. I'll prepare the medical facilities," Mirai added. "We're going to need them." Taeyang was already working on tactical analysis. "The Skrell are predictable. They rely on overwhelming force. But they're not creative. If we can surprise them, we might have a chance." Across Earth, preparations began. Military forces mobilized. Civilians were evacuated from coastal cities. The space stations were armed with every weapon humans and Valtorians could mount on them. In a military base in Colorado, Jiwoo worked with a team of engineers. They were retrofitting fighter jets with Valtorian shields and weapons. A human pilot named Rodriguez watched skeptically. "Will this really work?" he asked. Jiwoo smiled. "2 years ago, you couldn't have imagined aliens living on Earth. Now you're flying a jet with alien technology to fight other aliens. Anything is possible." Rodriguez laughed despite his fear. Fair point. At the UN building, General Martinez coordinated the defense with military leaders from around the world. Hyunwoo stood beside her, providing intelligence about Skrell tactics. "They'll target population centers first," he explained, pointing at a map. "They want to break your will to fight. They'll expect you to surrender quickly." "They don't know humans very well," Martinez said grimly. "We're stubborn, sometimes stupidly so." Hyunwoo had noticed that. Humans had a peculiar quality. When cornered, when facing impossible odds, they didn't always break. Sometimes they became more determined, more dangerous. It was why he thought they might actually have a chance. On the third day, the Skrell fleet entered Earth's orbit. The ships were massive and dark, like tumors against the stars. They broadcast their message again. "This is your final chance. Surrender the Valtorians." General Martinez responded personally. "This is Earth. The Valtorians are under our protection. If you want them, you'll have to go through us." There was a pause. Then the Skrell reply came, tinged with what might have been amusement. "So be it. Your primitive world will serve as an example to others who harbor our prey." The first Skrell ships descended through the atmosphere, their weapons charged. Their assault began, and humanity met them with everything they had. Fighter jets screamed through the sky, their weapons upgraded with Valtorian technology. Missiles launched from hidden positions. Space stations opened fire with cannons that shouldn't have existed 2 years ago. The sky over Earth lit up with explosions. Hyunwoo watched from the command center, his heart pounding. This was it, the moment that would decide everything. Either Earth would stand or it would fall. Either humanity's crazy decision to fight would prove brilliant, or it would prove fatal. The first Skrell ship fell. Then another. The humans were holding, but the battle had just begun. More Skrell vessels descended. The real war was starting. Hyunwoo picked up a weapon. Mirai did the same. Jiwoo left the war was nothing like the simulations predicted. It was worse, bloodier, and somehow more hopeful all at once. The first week was chaos. The Skrell attacked major cities without warning. Tokyo burned. Mumbai fell into darkness when the power grid was destroyed. São Paulo lost millions in a single orbital strike. The death toll climbed so fast that news stations stopped reporting exact numbers. They just said countless. But humanity didn't surrender. In Seoul, pilots like Captain Yoon flew modified jets that barely held together. The Valtorian shields Jiwoo had installed kept shorting out. The weapons overheated. But Yoon kept flying, kept fighting, kept bringing down Skrell fighters one by one. "This is insane," his wingman said over the radio as they dodged plasma fire. "We're held together with tape and prayers." "Then pray harder," Yoon replied, lining up another shot. "Because I'm out of tape." They laughed. It was either laugh or scream, and screaming didn't help win battles. On the ground, cities turned into fortresses. In New York, citizens who had never held weapons learned to fire the strange Valtorian rifles Jiwoo's team had manufactured. In Lagos, engineers built barricades from whatever they could find. In Beijing, children were evacuated into underground shelters that hadn't been used in generations. Hyunwoo coordinated with General Martinez from a command bunker beneath the Colorado mountains. Screens showed battles across the globe. Each light represented lives being lost. Each strategic decision meant choosing who would live and who would die. "We can't keep this up," Martinez said, exhausted. She hadn't slept in 3 days. None of them had. "We're losing 3 ships for every one of theirs we destroy. But we are destroying them," Hyunwoo pointed out. "They expected us to break in days. It's been a week of hell." "Yes, but we're still here." Martinez looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. "Your people were right to run from them. I don't know how anyone fights the Skrell and wins." "No one has," Hyunwoo admitted. "That's why we ran. That's why the galaxy fears them." He paused. "But maybe that's about to change." In the medical centers, Mirai worked without rest. The wounded came in endless waves. Humans with burns from plasma weapons. Valtorians who had fought on the front lines. She stitched, healed, and comforted, moving from bed to bed like a ghost. A young human soldier grabbed her hand. He couldn't have been more than 20. His legs were gone, taken by a Skrell weapon. Am I going to die? He asked. Mirai squeezed his hand. Not today. I won't let you. She didn't let him. She worked through the night using every technique she knew, combining human and Valtorian medicine in ways that had never been tried. When the sun rose, the soldier was stable. He would live. He would walk again with prosthetics, one life saved among millions lost. But Mirai held on to it. Every life mattered. Every person saved was a victory. Ji-woo barely recognized herself anymore. The careful engineer who had maintained the eternal hope was gone. In her place was someone harder, angrier, more desperate. She led teams that built weapons in factories that had made cars 2 weeks ago. She modified nuclear weapons with Valtorian shielding, creating bombs that could actually hurt Skrell capital ships. This is crazy, her human assistant said, looking at the designs. His name was David, and he had been a physics teacher before the war. These things could destroy half a continent if they go wrong. Then we won't let them go wrong, Ji-woo said simply. We need every advantage. You've changed, David observed. When you first arrived, you seemed so peaceful. Ji-woo's laugh was bitter. Peace is easy when you're not watching children die. The Skrell took that from us. They took peace from both our peoples. So we'll give them war. 2 weeks into the fighting, humanity launched its first major counterattack. A fleet of modified spacecraft carrying the nuclear weapons Ji-woo had designed, launched from bases around the world. The plan was insane, reckless, suicidal. It was also the only chance they had. Taeyang had studied Skrell movement patterns for months. He had found a weakness. The Skrell relied on their flagship to coordinate their fleet. It was massive, heavily shielded, and supposedly invincible. But Taeyang had noticed something. Once every 6 hours, the flagship had to drop part of its shields to vent heat from its reactors. For exactly 17 seconds, it was vulnerable. 17 seconds to change everything. The human fleet approached the Skrell armada. Skrell fighters swarmed them immediately. Ships exploded. Pilots died. But the survivors pushed forward, sacrificing themselves to clear a path. Captain Rodriguez, the pilot who had doubted Ji-woo's modifications, led the final approach. His ship was damaged, leaking air, but the engine still worked. He had one of Ji-woo's special weapons in his hold. This is Rodriguez, he broadcast on all channels.
If I don't make it, tell my daughter I love her.
Tell her I died protecting her future. You'll tell her yourself, Yoon's voice came back. The Korean pilot's fighter was in even worse shape, but he flew beside Rodriguez. We're going together. Taeyang counted down from mission control. 30 seconds to the window, 2010. The flagship's shields began to shimmer, preparing to vent heat. Now, Taeyang shouted. Rodriguez and Yoon dove toward the flagship. Skrell weapons tore through the space around them. Yoon's ship was hit, spiraling away, but Rodriguez kept going, his damaged vessel screaming through vacuum. The flagship's shields dropped for their 17-second window. Rodriguez launched the weapon at point-blank range, then tried to pull away. The explosion was like a new sun being born. The flagship's reactor went critical, and the massive vessel tore itself apart from the inside. The shockwave caught Rodriguez's ship. For a moment, everyone thought he was gone. Then his voice crackled through the static. Still here. Battered but alive. Someone want to give me directions home? The command center erupted in cheers. The Skrell fleet, suddenly without coordination, began to falter. Their formation broke. Their attacks became disorganized. They're vulnerable, Martinez said, hardly believing it. Press the advantage. Hit them with everything we have. The battle turned. Without their flagship, the Skrell were still dangerous, but they were no longer unstoppable. Human and Valtorian forces attacked with renewed strength. One by one, Skrell ships were destroyed or driven back, but the victory came at terrible cost. Entire cities lay in ruins. Billions were dead or wounded. Families were torn apart. The world would never be the same. In a hospital in Geneva, Mirai treated a Skrell prisoner. The creature was dying, its insectoid body broken by human weapons. It looked at her with compound eyes that showed something like surprise. You heal me? It rasped. Why? Because that's what we do, Mirai said simply. We heal. Even our enemies. The Skrell didn't understand. Its species had never known mercy. But it died a little easier, perhaps, for having seen it at the end. 3 months into the war, the tide had fully turned. The Skrell fleet that had seemed invincible was now broken. They had lost 2/3 of their ships. Their supply lines were cut. And something else was happening. Something no one had expected. Other species were watching. The galaxy that had ignored the Valtorians, that had hidden from the Skrell, was paying attention. News spread through the civilized worlds. A primitive species called humanity was fighting the Skrell, and winning. The Galactic Council sent observers. They watched battles unfold. They saw human pilots ramming their ships into Skrell cruisers when their weapons ran dry. They saw civilians fighting with improvised weapons when the enemy landed in their cities. They saw a species that refused to accept defeat no matter the odds. "This is unprecedented," one observer reported back. "They fight with a ferocity we've never seen. They don't retreat. They don't surrender. They simply refuse to lose." In the command center, Hyunwoo received a message from the Skrell commander. It was brief. "We withdraw. This world costs too much." Martinez read the message 3 times. "They're retreating?" "They are," Hyunwoo confirmed, almost unable to believe it himself. "They've never retreated before, but Earth hurt them. Humanity hurt them so badly they're afraid." The final Skrell ships left Earth's orbit 3 weeks later. They limped away, damaged and defeated, leaving behind thousands of wrecked vessels. The war wasn't over completely. There would be cleanup operations, hunting down the remaining Skrell forces hiding in the solar system. But the invasion had been stopped. Earth had won. The cost was staggering. Nearly 2 billion dead. Entire regions uninhabitable from radiation and bombardment. The economy was destroyed. Technology was set back decades in some places, pushed forward in others. The world was forever changed, but it was still standing. Hyunwoo stood on the observation deck of a rebuilt space station, looking down at Earth. Beside him, Jiwoo, Mirai, and Taeyang watched the planet slowly heal. Cities were being rebuilt. Fields were being replanted. Life continued. "We did this," Jiwoo said quietly. "We brought this war to them." "No," Martinez said, joining them. She had been promoted to head of the new United Earth Defense Force. "The Skrell brought this war. You brought hope. You brought technology. You brought friendship," she smiled tiredly. "And you brought proof that the Skrell can be beaten." "At what cost?" Mirai asked, tears in her eyes. "At a terrible one," Martinez admitted. "But we made our choice. We chose to stand for something. To be something better than creatures who abandon those in need." She looked at each of them. 5 years after the war ended, Hyunwoo stood in the Valtorian settlement and barely recognized it. What had been a refuge for 10,000 desperate aliens was now a thriving city of 500,000. Humans and Valtorians lived side by side. Mixed families were common. Children of both species played in parks designed by both cultures. The settlement wasn't separate from Earth anymore. It was part of Earth. It was home. Hyunwoo was older now, his blue-tinted skin showing lines of age. He walked slower than he used to, but his eyes were still sharp and his heart was still full. He was no longer a military commander. He didn't need to be. Earth had changed him, just as the Valtorians had changed Earth. He made his way to the memorial at the city's center, a massive structure of stone and metal carved with names. 2 billion human names, 3,000 Valtorian names. Everyone who had died in the war. Everyone who had sacrificed so that others could live. Mirai was already there, placing flowers at the base. She did this every week without fail. She had aged too, but her compassion hadn't dimmed. If anything, it had grown stronger. "Still remember them all?" Hyunwoo asked quietly. "Every face," Mirai replied. "Every name. The boy who asked if he would die. The pilot who flew into the flagship. The mother who died protecting her children." She touched the memorial. "I carry them all. That's a heavy burden. It's a worthy one." They stood in silence, remembering. Then Jiwoo joined them. She walked with a slight limp now, an injury from the war that never fully healed, but she smiled when she saw her old friends. "The new reactor is online," she announced. "Clean energy for the entire settlement. No waste, no pollution. In 10 years we'll have them all over Earth." "You're changing the world," Hyunwoo observed. Jiwoo shrugged. "We're fixing it. Humans nearly destroyed their planet before we arrived. Now we're helping them heal it. Fair trade for saving our lives." Taeyang arrived last, moving quickly despite his years. The young astronomer had become Earth's leading expert on space navigation. His maps of the galaxy were the most accurate ever created. "I have news," he said, excitement in his voice. "The Galactic Council sent a message. They want to talk. Not just to Earth, but to both of us, together." Hyunwoo raised an eyebrow. "The same council that declared us displaced persons without rights?" "The same one," Taeyang confirmed. But things have changed. When Earth beat the Skrull, the galaxy noticed. Other species started asking questions. If humans could defeat the Skrull, why couldn't they? What made Earth different? "Desperation," Jiwoo said dryly. "And a healthy dose of insanity. Courage," Mirai corrected. "And compassion. They want us to join the council," Taeyang continued. As full members, both species, Earth and the Valtorians represented together. It was unprecedented. The Galactic Council had existed for 10,000 years. New members were rare. For a primitive species like humanity to be invited so quickly was unheard of, and for refugees without a homeworld to be given equal status, that had never happened. "They're afraid," Hyunwoo said, understanding. "They watched us beat the Skrull. Now they want Earth as an ally before someone else does." "Does the reason matter?" Taeyang asked. "We're being offered what we've always wanted: recognition, protection, a voice." Hyunwoo thought about it. 5 years ago he would have accepted immediately, anything to keep his people safe. But he was different now. He had learned from humanity. Sometimes the right answer wasn't the safe answer. "Let's see what Earth wants," he decided. "We stand together now. We decide together." The meeting was held at the UN building in New York, now rebuilt with both human and Valtorian architecture. It was beautiful in its combination of styles. Organic curves from Valtorian design mixed with human functionality. A building that represented what both species had become. Something new. Something better than either had been alone. General Martinez, now commander of Earth Defense, addressed the assembly. Beside her stood representatives from every human nation, and beside them stood Valtorian leaders including Hyunwoo. "The Galactic Council has invited us to join them," Martinez announced. "This is a great honor. But it's also a test. They want to see if Earth will behave, if we'll follow their rules, if we'll become like them." She paused, looking around the room. "I say we accept their invitation, but on our terms." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Finally, the Chinese representative spoke. "What terms?" Martinez smiled. It was the smile of someone who had won an impossible war and learned to be bold. "We join as partners, not subjects. We share our technology and knowledge freely with all species, not just council members. We defend any world that faces what we faced, regardless of politics. And we never ever abandon refugees in need." "They'll never accept that," the Russian ambassador said. "Then they don't really want us," Martinez replied. "They want the idea of us. The species that beat the Skrull. But we're not trophies. We're not weapons. We're people who believe in something." Hyunwoo stood. "If I may speak? 5 years ago we were desperate. We would have accepted any terms, any conditions just to survive. But Earth taught us something. Earth showed us that survival isn't enough, that how you survive matters as much as whether you survive." He looked at the humans in the room. "You could have given us to the Skrull. It would have been logical, safe, easy. But you didn't. You fought for us even when it cost you everything. That's what makes you different. That's what makes humanity special." Mirai spoke next. "The galaxy is afraid. They've hidden from the Skrull for generations. They've abandoned their principles for safety. Maybe it's time someone reminded them what it means to stand for something." The vote was unanimous. Earth would join the Galactic Council, but only on their terms. The message was sent through the Valtorian communication network that Taeyang maintained. The Council's response came within days. After much debate, they had accepted all of Earth's conditions. They needed humanity more than humanity needed them. The formal ceremony was held 6 months later, on a space station orbiting Earth. Representatives from dozens of species attended. The same species that had rejected the Valtorians 5 years ago now watched respectfully as Earth was welcomed into the galactic community. But something else happened that day. Something that changed the galaxy forever. A small ship arrived during the ceremony. It carried refugees from a world called Deltos, running from the same Skrull forces that had destroyed the Valtorian homeworld. They were desperate, afraid, with nowhere to go. They broadcast a plea for help. The Galactic Council ignored them, just as they had ignored the Valtorians. General Martinez didn't hesitate. This is Earth defense. Deltosian vessel, you are granted immediate sanctuary. Proceed to these coordinates. We will protect you. The Council representatives protested. You can't make such decisions unilaterally. There are procedures, protocols. Martinez turned to face them, her expression hard. You can keep your procedures. Earth stands for something. We remember what it's like to be afraid. We remember what it's like to need help. And we will never ever turn away those who need us. Hyunwoo stepped beside her. The Valtorians stand with Earth. These refugees are under our protection. One by one, other humans joined them. Then other Valtorians. Then, surprisingly, representatives from smaller species in the Council. Species that remembered their own struggles, their own fears. The Deltosian refugees landed on Earth 3 days later. 5,000 of them. They were given shelter in the Valtorian settlement. Given food, medicine, safety, and given something more important. Given hope. It became known as the Earth Doctrine. Any refugee from any world, for any reason, could find sanctuary on Earth. No questions. No conditions. Just help. Over the next decade, thousands came. Species fleeing war, disaster, persecution. Earth welcomed them all. The Valtorian settlement grew into a massive city, a place where dozens of species lived together. Some called it foolish, some called it dangerous, but others called it revolutionary. 20 years after the Valtorians first arrived, Hyunwoo was very old. He spent his days in the memorial garden, remembering. His joints ached. His eyes were dim, but his spirit was at peace. Jiwoo had died 5 years ago, still building and creating until the end. Mirai had passed 2 years later, working in a hospital until her last breath. Taeyang still worked, now training the next generation of astronomers, but he moved slowly. General Martinez visited him one afternoon. She was old too now, her hair completely gray, but still strong. I got a message from the Council, she said, sitting beside him. They want to rename their organization, the United Galactic Federation, based on Earth's principles. Open borders for refugees, collective defense, shared resources. Hyunwoo smiled. That's what we were searching for. That's what we never found until we came here. You brought it here, Martinez said. Your people taught us we weren't alone. You gave us a reason to reach for the stars. No, Hyunwoo disagreed gently. Earth already had everything it needed. You just needed a reason to show it. We were cast out among the stars, rejected by the galaxy, lost, dying. And then we found you. He looked up at the sky, where stars were just beginning to appear as the sun set. This primitive world, this backwater planet that the great civilizations ignored, this was where we found everything we'd been looking for. Not just shelter, not just safety, but something rarer in the